While researching a subject in any field, it's easy to get pulled in and keep going, making branching paths all over the place. A while ago, I hit one of these branches. You may remember a few videos ago that I said walkthroughs deserve a video of their own. I don't remember, but I wrote most of the script half a year ago, so I probably said it. Most YouTubers would just never mention it again and go on with their lives. But I'm a man of my word. Here is the walkthrough and its place in gaming. Before we can really understand the way that walkthroughs are used today, we have to travel back in time 40 years ago to the 1980s, the age of neon, mullets, and thinking cocaine was healthy for some reason. Sadly, the video game and cocaine demographics didn't intersect much aside from whoever developed Bonk's Adventure for the NES. And during this time, the first video game magazines were starting to release and gain traction with the public. The most famous of these magazines being Nintendo Power. Nintendo Power was a monthly magazine that contained news of upcoming Nintendo games and strategies for popular games already released to the public. These strategies were useful to you if you were stuck in a game that was contained in the magazine, but if your game wasn't in that edition, you were out of luck. This all changed early on with the creation of individual strategy guides up for purchase that could help walk you through an entire game if needed. But this wasn't your only option. If you had a computer, which many still didn't at the time, you could go to an online text bulletin board, which gained a lot of popularity in the 90s, where you could interact with other people in chat rooms and upload and download files from different bulletin boards and hope it's something useful and not just a video of Bill Clinton. I really wanted to find an interface of one of these boards, but I couldn't, so I really can't say as to how people navigated through them, only that they did. This didn't last too long though, as it became mostly useless with the invention of dial-up internet. Another service people used when they were stuck in a video game back in the day was the Nintendo Power Line, a hotline where you could call a video game expert to fix your problem. Sometimes I wonder how they made sure that these people giving video game advice actually know what they're talking about. Think about it. Any Nintendo game where people have a problem, you have to know what it is and how to get them past it. That's honestly pretty impressive. And I haven't played too many games from this era, but I do know that some of them can be really confusing, or just bad at some points just because of the lack of direction due to the limitations put on developers. Just look at the first Zelda. I was born in the early 2000s. How am I supposed to know what that means? But this was no matter, for by the time I was growing up, the modern age of walkthroughs was already being born. This came with the growing necessity of a computer in the household and the popularity of the internet. Places like Game FAQs and Games Radar were frequently used to answer specific questions players had quickly and precisely, making old-fashioned strategy guides and magazines obsolete in a very short amount of time. Of course, these strategy guides are still made today, but they're mostly collectibles, owned by people who already know how to play the game, and they're not usually made by the publisher like they used to be. Companies now commission other companies such as Prima Games to make these guides for them. These strategy guides are nice, but the walkthroughs that are actually in use are online written walkthroughs and YouTube walkthroughs. Written walkthroughs are usually formatted by parts, spanning an entire game, with different pages for each part. Every detail of the game is described well, but it can sometimes be hard to visualize some situations based on words alone. This is where the YouTube walkthroughs come in. A YouTube walkthrough is pretty self-explanatory, a video of someone showing you through a game. The most famous of these YouTubers is the Rad Brad, with a whopping 12.8 million subscribers. To be honest, I had no idea who this guy was before this video, because I get my walkthroughs from one source, Fightin' Cowboy. Fightin' Cowboy is a walkthrough YouTuber that's genuinely fun to watch. He does Let's Plays too, and I watched a few back when I had time during the COVID lockdown. If that's your thing, I'd definitely recommend him. A trend I've seen recently with these YouTubers is that they started out just making walkthroughs and Let's Plays, then moved to streaming their experiences either on Twitch or YouTube, in a sense double dipping with their content. These two types of walkthroughs, written and video, can be used in a variety of different ways, so I sorted them out into 6 different categories, and I'll share my experiences with each of them. The first of these is what I like to call complete written usage, which is using a written walkthrough for the entirety of your playthrough step by step. I've never personally done this, but it can help on games that are especially hard. Next is complete video usage. This is definitely more entertaining if you have the right YouTuber, but it can take a bit of enjoyment out of the exploring aspect of a game. In a video walkthrough, you can see exactly what you need to do and not just a written description. I've done this once with Dark Souls 3, and I still loved the game and did explore by myself, but for a lot of the main sections of the game, I did use a walkthrough. I know, not very gamer of me, but I'm not that good at navigation in 3D games, or in real life for that matter. I get lost in your walls all the time. On a serious note, please stop snoring. I haven't slept for 3 days, please. Next is partial uses of a walkthrough. Partial use is the most common I've seen, and I define it as using a walkthrough for a certain situation, whether it be how to solve a puzzle or strategy on defeating a boss. The walkthrough is mostly used as a tool to help the player get over a speed bump that's just above their skill level at the moment, not a total guide. The written partial walkthrough just describes simply a puzzle or tactics, then the player can use these. For example, when I was playing Metroid Zero Mission not too long ago, I got stuck because I had no idea that the lava in one super specific place was actually just water, so I looked up a walkthrough and sighed. Partial video usage is practically the same. The last time I needed this was for that one puzzle near the end of Portal 2, where you need to direct the laser into a hard-to-see corner that I spent like an hour or so on, so I just gave up, due to the aforementioned lack of gamer. The last two uses of walkthroughs are what I call minimal written and minimal video usage. This type is usually done after your first playthrough to get achievements. It can be looking up where certain items are, or figuring out what all the achievements are in the first place. I used minimal usage a while ago getting the Mr. Mushroom achievement in Hollow Knight. I could have read what he's saying and figured it out on my own, but I really just wanted to see a mushroom become a spaceship. Okay. Lastly, the minimal video usage is used for things that are hard to describe in words, like specific locations, but it can be other things too. For instance, I've looked up farming locations in Sekiro to complete the achievement where you need all the upgrades. After looking at the different games where I've used walkthroughs in different ways, I realized something that probably should have been obvious from the start. I tend to use written walkthroughs for 2D games and video walkthroughs for 3D games, just due to how much better videos are at presenting 3D space to the viewer, because, well, it's showing a 3D space. While in 2D games, the environments are largely easy to describe, and I can pick out items in the background much easier than I could in 3D. Walkthroughs will always have their own special place in gaming. They help new players acclimate to different times and also help experienced ones explore every nook and cranny. Many may say that it's not right to use a walkthrough for mini games because that's not how the developer intended for the player to experience the game. But I say that if you feel that you would enjoy the experiments more by using a walkthrough in any way, then go for it. Though there is one exception, something preferable to a walkthrough in most cases that I purposefully haven't mentioned. This thing is another person. A friend or family member that knows the ins and outs of a game will almost always be better than a walkthrough. They know when to guide you and when to not tell you anything. Some of my favorite experiences playing video games is when I'm playing with somebody who knows how to keep me on track and simultaneously uninformed. A walkthrough always overshares. It's the nature of it, but people have nuance. I'm not saying you should always play video games with other people. That's not always possible, and some games are just better alone. But just give it a thought, and I wish you luck in whatever you choose to do. Thanks for watching, guys, and before you say it, I didn't think I would be able to talk about walkthroughs for this long either. Also, make sure to comment for what types of videos you want to see on the channel. I'm always open to suggestions. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next video. Peace.